All right, so folks, here we are for our next installment of Pivot Play, and I'm here today with the amazing, the energetic. This woman has infectious energy and has accomplished so much with someone I've known since a child. This is Michelle Washington, the founder of Women of More LLC. And so, welcome, Michelle.
Thank you so much. I just want to let your audience know that you are the older of us. So if we've been knowing each other for children, I always look up to you.
But by like a couple weeks, probably. I don't know. So let's cover that first. So we've known each other for a long time. I used to hang out with your brother back in the day, and would occasionally spend weekends with you guys over in Germantown. Mm-hmm. And we all belonged to the same church that was pastored by my uncles. Which you're right. Well, you were little Michelle back.
Right. Right. So y'all were able to do whatever y'all wanted to do, and I'm like, why can't I go?
Yeah. So so that's kind of interesting. Oh, I just realized we're live, right? Anyway, don't worry about it.
Okay.
Yeah, just we'll talk about it. But I see we have a number of people on. So hey, if you're on here and you have comments or questions, just throw them out. So anyway, Michelle, so this is what's tough about doing interviews with people I've known for so long, is you kind of figure out where to start. But let's just jump in with Women of More. What is it?
No one ever asked me what is it. They always ask me, where did it come from?
Nah. When I say what is it, like what is the purpose? What is the mission? What is the vision?
The vision is to really get women to understand their position in life outside of our roles and responsibilities. When we were born or created, we weren't created with a title. We was created as an action. We was created as a being, a human. And with being created as a woman, we gain privileges. We have benefits with that. But sometimes we aim for the titles and all of those things and jump over being a woman. So Women of More is really to get women to regain their purpose, not their purpose in life, but their purpose of who they are, so they can do whatever they need to do.
Right. So how long did it take you to really solidify sort of the tone, the character of what Women of More is, even to come up with the name? Mm-hmm. Like, what was that process like?
It's really not crazy. It's a beautiful storyline, very spiritual. After divorce, women, if you're married, not married, but if you have children, you get 2 titles after divorce. You become a divorced woman, and then you become a single mom. Well, there was a season in my life where I allowed those 2 titles to govern who I was. And then I allowed society to make me feel sad and less than because of those titles. And I'll never forget the day. It was a Saturday morning, and it's going to sound kind of preachy, but it really happened this way. I really was just meditating and just feeling down, Tony. And God said to me, he said, Michelle, there is more to you. He said, you're more than the shame. You're more than the hurt and the pain. You're more than, he said, you are a woman of more. And I heard it so clearly. And from that, I was like, I am. I rediscovered who I was. I didn't rediscover those titles or roles. He said, you're more than all of that. You're trying to get me by something that you're more than. So that's where that all came from.
Okay, so what was the first endeavor? So was it the magazine? What did you do first?
The first thing I did, I started doing social media campaigns. It was called All Women Rock. That's how I got started, where I started highlighting, I think, at least 100 women just to get the name out there. In that, my whole my whole basis was just to let women know who they were. But I didn't realize that I was really starting the marketing piece of it to get the name there. And
Right.
that's how it started.
So when you have, if a person has a vision, a goal, a mission, whatever,
Mhm.
it can be iterative, right? It evolves. It challenges you to evolve. And so, in what ways has Michelle had to change to really, kind of make this like a tailor-made suit?
I had to grow up.
Hmm.
I really had to grow into this whole concept of being a woman of more. As good as it sounds, as powerful as it is, it was before me and I had to go into it. I had to walk into this particular thing. I had to grow up and then I had to eliminate some of those things that kept me in that place of where I was trying to leave from.
Okay. So let's bring up some words then. So let's talk about doubt. Let's talk about failure.
Mhm.
Let's talk about money, right? Because there's no mission without money.
Yeah.
So were there doubts, or were you just, you just always 100% determined, 100%? You could see what's coming down the road. Does that play a role for you?
Tony, everybody is not like you that don't have any doubts about anything, okay?
Oh boy, the stories I can tell.
Of course, I had doubts because I was coming out of a season of feeling less than. So it took me time to have the confidence to say, I had that light bulb moment. But
Hmm.
in that light bulb moment, it was like, okay, Michelle, you could do it, type of thing, you know. But before I started actually going out, I had to deal with some doubt. Like,
Right.
what are people going to say? Are people that follow? They're going to understand. It was so much. That's why I don't even know how you do it, Tony. How you just go out and do stuff and people understand.
Yeah. So, so that's an interesting one. So we can come back to that because I don't have a full answer, because what you see is the things that I've done. I see the things that I've done. I see the time that it's taken me to do them. Right.
Mhm,
I'm not always on the timeline I think I should be on. And
mhm.
then I have a pile of undone things. Right. I'm no different, I think, than other people. And so I guess my question in is, when it comes to women of more, how do you define success for yourself and women of more?
When I'm able to look at that list of things and see that I'm checking them off, to be honest with
Mm-hmm.
you, that is the number one thing. Because I can't count on people to just tell me, oh, you're doing well. I mean, all those things are great. I mean, they're wonderful. They're great things to help me be encouraged and do those things. But when I can look
Mm-hmm.
at the list and say, Dad, you achieved that. Okay, you did that, or you were successful, you accomplished what you set out to do in the beginning of the
Right.
year. That is success. It's not about money. It's not about people that I might come in contact with. It's all about that list because I really, really had to learn that discipline as well, not
Right.
procrastinating.
So how long did it take to get volume one of the magazine done?
Volume one was so hard. It was so hard. And it was only 6 pages. It was always, but that was, oh my goodness. I cried. Now you talking about doubting. I just was like, it's done. I'm not doing this at all.
Right.
Um, but I think it was hard because I wasn't sure. It wasn't something that I went to school for.
Right.
It was a way of carrying the message to places that I wasn't in. So
Right.
I'm thinking, how are you able to do this? Or why do you want to do this? You don't have no experience.
Right.
So it was hard.
So so let's break this down, right? And you can tell me which of them may have been the most challenging. And I'm just going to go off the top of my head, things that I would think you'd have to have in mind or some grasp on to put out a magazine. So one is you need content, right? So there's writing, there's editors, there's what's the subject matter, who's the subject matter, right? How do you get people, setting up interviews, learning how to interview those people. Then there's photographs and there's, typesetting. I mean, there's a whole, then there's marketing and distribution. So there's I don't know, was that 8 things probably? And I probably didn't get them all, but you were doing pretty much, it seemed to me, all this stuff yourself in the beginning. Mm-hmm. Do you still do it all now?
See, Tony, we had this conversation about
but if that's that same conversation, that was over a year and a half ago.
It was.
So and that's why I asked the question, because I didn't expect the same answer. So
I do have someone that helps me edit the articles. I still create I create the pages and things like that. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to have a conversation because I don't like having repetitive conversations with you, Tony, because you hold people accountable without holding them accountable. It's almost like you say, you know what, these are the things you should do. Mm-hmm. You always ask why you're doing it, but you never put the fire to the person. You give the information and you walk away. I'm like, but you feel accountable to what you just said.
Well, because I'm not trying to drop any grenades on people, but, so there's a couple things just for me personally. Like, it's amazing to me that people use sleep as a reason to not get things done. I'm like, yeah, I mean, so it's just my belief, Michelle. I believe that anyone can sleep, but rest is earned. So when I lay my head down, I want to rest. I don't want to sleep, because if I know that there are things that I didn't get done, and it's not that you can do it all, but you kind of go back and look at a day and be like, I know what I did, what I didn't do. I know what it's like to sit in front of, I would say an unfavorable task and just procrastinate, find ways to not do it. And I've had those other days. I come up with a list and like, boom, we got that stuff done. And I feel so great about that.
Yeah.
But so there was a recent pop-up edition of Pivot Play that I did, and I did it because it was a message to myself. So I'll take you back some number of years, and I did my first album CD, right? And I did everything. I wrote the music. I mean, I brought in some singers, but I wrote the music. I was singing. I was playing. I was the recording engineer. I was mixing. I did all the cover art and everything, and worked with the CD company. Like, when I say I did everything. And I'm like, I will never do that again. But what I did learn is all the steps. So then if I did bring in someone to do something, I know how to articulate the standard at which I want to see something done. But anyway, so what I'm saying is there's an episode that I did that was called Me, We, Them. And this is how I'm learning to get things done now. Like, there's a lot of things I can do on my own. So that's the me part of it. But sometimes it takes longer, certainly wears you out more.
Yeah.
And again, just the delay, because some things, as you know, is a speed to market issue, right? There's an opportunity, you have to be able to jump on it. But the other big challenge with that is it really limits the way that a vision can scale, right? Because sometimes things have to grow, not based on our personality, but based on our principle, right? And it's easier for you to replicate your principles than it is to replicate your personality, because there's just not a lot of people that have that energy and that smile and all that. You know what I mean? So there's that part. So I put that out, just really for me, it's a lesson that I've learned in some ways, letting go. And it has forced me to challenge my trust issues. Right. And is someone going to be really careful with my baby, or are they going to look at me and tell me my baby's ugly? Right?
Tony, would you say that it is a trust thing that calls people not to?
Yeah.
Why is that?
I think we've been programmed for distrust. And I mean that by, we've certainly the things that we've experienced in life and in our own relationships. And then the people to the side of us, everyone's got a story of how somebody did them dirty. And then you think about a lot of the content that we call entertainment is typically based on somebody who violated somebody else's trust, right? So we see it all around. And then so we have concerns. I mean, I don't know if I've told the story, but I've had the occasion to have something that I worked hard on, an actual invention for golf. The guys that I was working with stole that idea to convince me it couldn't happen. And next time I saw it, it was sitting on the store shelf. You know what I mean? So, and I've written music and put things out, and I've heard, and I hear back to somebody said they wrote that song. So I think that, again, the trust can just be experiential. It's just based on what we go through. And then and sometimes in our circle, we don't have people who encourage trust either. They encourage building walls, safeguarding yourself, hiding. But at some point, it's got to get out there. And at some point, you have to also accept, once I put it out, this might light a fire under someone else, and they could build something that looks very much like what I just did.
You know what, Tony, you always told me that, and I hope you remember what you said. You said there is a board, not a board literally, but what?
Yeah.
All right, what did you say? Because that was really
so cool. Yeah, and so I so I believe there's kind of like this cosmic bulletin board. We share, spiritually the same energy. We can be on the same frequency. So it's like, if you've ever been in a room with someone, it's like, oh, who was in that movie, right? And I'm trying to think through this name, and that name could pop into your head, and in a split second, it comes out of somebody else's mouth.
Yeah.
So we share that most often, and it's a mystery to me how that happens. But I'll give you another example of this shared energy. Have you ever been on the phone with someone, they yawn and you yawn?
Yes.
Right. And sometimes it happens when you might be disguising your yawn and they still yawn.
Yeah.
So there is something there. And so I believe that ideas are kind of like this sort of cosmic bulletin board. And they're just out there. Once it's an idea that's birthed in your head, it's in the cosmos. Now it's about who's going to execute. I don't know that we necessarily have all these unique ideas. I just think there's the uniqueness to whether or not people execute on that idea. And again, I've had other ideas I didn't execute on, and something that almost matched it exactly shows up in the market. I'm like, and I felt bad because I let someone talk me out of it before it ever got started.
It is so incredible because that happens more often than none, and well, you're the guy to figure that out. You like figuring stuff out. So
I do, but what I think it is, it's about executing. And then I think sometimes it is about speed, and again, I've been in and around music, as you know, forever. And I can't tell you how many people, get a bunch of folks together and they do this live recording. 3 years later, there's no project out.
Yeah.
Right. And then it's like, well, no, it's stale. And like, it wasn't if you had a plan to execute. And I don't mean to say that to oversimplify. I can't oversimplify it for you. You know what a labor it is, especially when you have emotional investment in something. It's not easy. So let me ask you this question. So again, the risk of the success and the accomplishment that you've had is, by the time people see it, their view of it is oversimplified. Talk just a minute about what this has really cost you emotionally, in times of sleep, in terms of sleep, in terms of money, in terms of relationships, whatever those things, because it never comes without a cost, and it's never as easy as people think. What has this journey been like for you?
It has cost me everything. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional about it right now, but it really has. I already told you it caused me to grow up in some areas, which I'm grateful for because it's a benefit. But emotionally and mentally, this is not a business or an idea for people that just want to do it here or there, especially when and I don't want to use the word brand, but when you want to build something that's going to be outlive you, it takes everything about you to build it. And the foundation, of course, is the most important part, because as you're building, like you said, if I bring someone in, they might, done something that wasn't right, they could be removed, but the foundation still have to remain.
Right.
So, like, even this week, I made sure that you was the last thing that I'm absolutely giving my time to, because I need some rest. I don't need to
Right.
I take naps and stuff like that. But I need rest where my mind can reset, because
Right.
I know I've been going so hard for different things and being stretched different places that I'm not going to be able to execute as fast as I could
Right.
if I got the rest.
Right.
So it takes a lot. I know the
Right.
posts look amazing. I know the Facebook lives. I know the magazines, but behind that, it's a lot.
So, and you have learned a lot, and so I want to say we have some folks who are watching this live. So I'm asking you guys if you could please share this out, because this is good stuff. You don't want to, gift it to someone else. So you have learned, just you've taken on these skills, right? You're filming, editing video, doing like, again, and you're such an example of what I really believe is that the vision can come, the dream can come, but it will demand something of you. So I believe in this day and age, our ability to self-educate
Hmm.
is crucial,
Hmm.
right? So what is your approach to learning a new skill, right? Whether it's a piece of software, I mean, you avoided the word brand, I don't know why, but brand, like Women of More is a brand,
Hmm.
right, today. So what have you learned about, branding? What have you learned about marketing? What have you learned about consulting? What have you learned about how to charge for your service? Like, these are all things you've learned. What is your approach when you have to take on something new?
I treat it, and I just learned this year, to treat my gifts and my gifts and talents in regards to what I do as a tithe. The Bible tells us to give a tithe and an offering. Well, I give that to my gifts and talents as well, at least 2 hours a day or more, that I'm really focused on learning how to master a particular thing. And then the other thing that helps me accelerate in those areas are the right mentors. My
Mm,
ultimate goal, Tony, is to, um, I don't even know the word, but I'll say the people. I love Miss Kathy Hughes. I love what she has built. I love what she has done. I love what Oprah has done. I love what Ava has done. I love all those things, and I can see myself on that level because that's a desire. Well, in order to
mhm,
get there, I have to study not what they're doing so much, that too, but who they are and how they're engaging, how they're able to see, just like with you. We were
mhm,
talking earlier, and you're able to see certain things to understand the strategy or what's missing.
right.
Um, because I want to be that person, not to imitate, but find
Mhm,
out where the gaps are, where I am today, where I'm at
right.
today. I want to know what's missing. And let me tell you, Tony, this is so funny what we were just talking about. I had an idea, and I'm gonna still do it. It's called Behind the Man of More. And
Oh,
what I
wow.
was going to do is talk to different men like yourself, not to see who was behind you, but who is behind you in your heart, your mind, your
Right.
thought process, how you do. So 2 weeks ago, I was watching TV. I was watching OWN network,
Mhm.
and it came up with a series, a mini series called Behind the Man. I was like, what is going on behind the man? And I'm thinking, like, how did they get that? what they're talking. I know, that's why I'm saying it.
Right.
But theirs is talking about their wife, the woman, their mother, and stuff like that, which is cool. But it's all in about execution. And that's what I want to learn from those different women. How were they able to execute? Because I think that is the thing from where I am today to that next big thing, or where it's going to, is execution.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's execution and then scale, right? Because then as it grows, and it's like, then you'll figure out whether or not your cookie cutter, is really designed the right way, right? Can you rubber stamp this? Can it really expand in everything that you do? And so, so let's talk about money for a minute. So how do you establish what you charge for your services, and what is your defense against the hookup?
Tony, man, when somebody try to get a hookup from me, Tony, listen, Tony, do people know your name is Tony?
I was going to say, maybe you should explain it and why you, because they're like, who's this? I thought this was Jerry's podcast.
Tony, listen, I didn't even know who Jerry was. And I was like, why are they calling him Jerry? I didn't even know your name was Jerry till like a couple of years ago. I'm like, why are they calling him Jerry? His name is not Jerry. His name is Tony. Where did Tony come from? Is that your...
Well, so my middle name is Anthony.
Okay.
Right. So that's why it was my nickname, because my dad's name is Jerry. And so, you can't have two Jerrys in the house. And, every now and again, someone will call me Little Jerry, which I despise. So it's Tony. So I always tell people, like, if you know me, like, you're probably going to call me Tony. If you meet me through business or something else, then you're probably going to call me Jerry. Other people know me from music stuff as J. Anthony. So it's just, but yeah, call me Tony.
I never heard
J. Anthony.
Wow.
Really?
Hey, Anthony, what was these? Tony, listen, what was the question? Money. But what about
it was money. It was about the hookup. It was about what's your defense against the hookup?
I teach them how to get the hookup on their own, because I had to do the hard work. If I have to do the work, then you have to do the work. I mean, along the journey, of course, some people have, made, done favors for me, but I still have to do the work. And I don't think nobody want to do the work. So when they do see a Kathy Hughes or Sheila E., their first question, how did you get that person? Work.
Oh, wait a minute. Can we go back to that? Can we talk about the whole Sheila E. thing? Because that's a whole backstory, right? Share the backstory of Sheila E., please.
Well, I play the drums. Sheila E. has always been that woman that I just admired from a little girl, always. So once I got into this market, I'm like, one day, it's always not every cover girl, but those big cover girls, one day, Sheila E. is going to be on the cover. I did my work. It took 8 months for it to happen. Not because we weren't in contact with each other. It was just the timing.
Right.
And I knew that my execution had to be like a little bit different than I was doing other things. So when her executive assistant said, yeah, she'll be on the cover, I was, Tony, just thinking about it, just going to make me just want to throw my laptop across the floor. Because it was like, wow, this is like really happening. And then I said, I would love to do a Facebook Live. I need to bring that up to a Facebook Live. It's like, sure, we love what you're doing. And that's one of the major keys in business, that when you ask a business person, a celebrity, or whomever, they're going to check your stuff out. Right. And if your stuff isn't legit, they will say no.
Right.
And that is so important.
So I want you to continue the story, but so just tell me about that moment of validation and what that meant for you.
Tony, this is not the show that I'm gonna cry, because I don't even know why I'm crying about that. That happened like a year ago, I think.
It was longer than a year ago.
It's 2 years. Good.
Yeah, I think it's 2 years.
It was a lot of validation
Right.
because I think in that moment I was still struggling with me
Right.
and I was still concerned about what other people thought about me to a
Right.
degree. So for Sheila E to say yes to me, it was like, oh, okay. I'm on a different level right now.
Right.
So
Right.
I had to catch up quickly with
Mhm.
that thing.
Wow. So okay, so let's talk about the whole. Just I know the story. They don't know how all that went down. The interview, the videos. Like, don't cheat the people, Michelle.
What do you want to know? Um, so it happened just like that. That I said. I talked to her assistant. We went back and forth. We was trying to do a photo shoot in California, but timing was just off. And this was like, if you said 2 years ago, I was still building. So I didn't have like a photographer in California that could, do certain things if I wasn't there. So it was just a lot. But in that moment, even before we went live on Facebook, she was talking to me. I was letting her know the why and how I viewed her. She said, and every woman has said this, they said, Michelle, your message is where I am or where I was. And it's so powerful. So I know with those affirmations that I'm not on to something, but I have to continue this because of the impact it's making to all women. So in
Right.
a nutshell, we did a Facebook Live, we talked. She was actually going to be in Philly during the pandemic, but the change that we was going to catch up and do some things together. But I know it'll come back around.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's an amazing story, right? And you just never know.
Mm-hmm.
So do you feel any additional burden as a woman who has, this magazine and an organization called Women of More, to kind of always have on the cape and always be super Michelle?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't feel the pressure of being all of that because what I realized in this process is that women want to see the reality of who you are. They
Right.
want to know that you are just like them. And that's what I tell women that are really in prison, because that's a whole nother story in regards to another passion of mine. I always tell them the only difference between myself and them is our choices, and they got caught and I didn't.
Right.
So it doesn't mean that I'm better than you or you're less than me. I just know that it's important that I be someone that they can identify and say, you know what, that Michelle, yeah, I can apply what she's saying. I can relate to what she's saying, because without that person relating to me, then what am I doing?
Right. And so I think what I see so often is when people have a platform, it becomes harder for them to be that transparent and be themselves. How important is that to you, that as Women of More grows, that Michelle doesn't get lost in that?
It's really people like you that I know, and I don't go to you all the time because I don't want to. I know I could if I wanted to, but I want to use it when I desperately need that coaching. But it's important for me to have people like yourself and others that can keep me, not hold me accountable, but keep me grounded. Like
Right.
I don't want all of that attention. I just want to
Right.
be able to complete this fully, where people are able to gain something and live the life of being
Right.
a woman of more.
So is Women of More synonymous with women of color?
No.
Okay. So talk to me about that. What's the vision there? Because you're a woman of color,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
You clearly know a lot of women of color. You know what I mean? Like we we identify, we represent kind of where we come from.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the diversity aspect of Women of More then?
It's just that it's diversified in regards to every woman. You know, when I got the vision, it wasn't, Michelle, go after Black women or go after Christian women. I got the message that go after women, because I believe that all type of women, if we get to that place of us knowing that we are more than, then it doesn't matter if they're Black or white. I mean,
Right.
if there's something that's an issue with Black women, oh, I'm gonna stand up for it. I'm gonna speak on it. But to
Right.
just say that this is my lane of being Black, it's not.
Right. And so women in 168 countries have experienced Women of More magazine. What type of feedback are you getting from women globally?
Well, there's two places, India and I want to say Ghana, maybe, where women have reached out to me personally and really want me to come to those areas. And I really would love to do that, because I believe that, this message again needs to go beyond me at this point in my life into those areas. But it's good. Every woman that I have spoken to outside of the United States, the message of just the title "Women of More" is always catchy for them, because
Right.
they understand it. I thought in the beginning people wouldn't understand what being a woman of more is, but it seemed like the women, especially over there, they need that, because a lot of women over there are not valued. They don't know their worth.
Right.
Just the word alone has provided some level of inspiration. So I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
forward in 2021 to really expand in those markets a little bit more, not just from the DMs or the emails, but to
Right.
really gauge them differently.
So let me segue for a second. In your opinion, what has the ascension of a Kamala Harris meant? What do you take from that?
Um, First, that is powerful. It's a game changer, of course. But what I took away from it, because I don't believe that that's my lane, but that was her lane, and she never gave up on pursuing that. And she made it. She got there. I love the picture with all the other vice presidents. They're all white, and just one Black woman. It is so powerful. And I think those are the moments that allows me to, sit up a little taller, to
Mm-hmm.
aim not to be the next VP, but to be able to say, you know what, you have the capacity to do everything you want to do. You
Right.
just do it, you know?
Right.
So it's a game changer, of course. And I haven't wrote it on my list to have her part of the magazine or just having a conversation. But I believe if I desire that, it will come to pass.
Right. Oh, absolutely. So then in terms of the progress that women are making, right? Is it moving forward? Do you think it's just steady state? Is it declining? Like, what is the trajectory for women
What
currently?
I what I hope it's not, I hope it's not an emotional or a moment of frenzy of women being highlighted. I hope it's not. I really hope it's not. I hope we're not making noise to say this is our moment, this is our year, this is our. I hope it's not that, because I think we're more than just a moment. We are women. Um,
Right.
I hope that we are able to navigate ourselves in those different places that we were locked out of, not
Right.
being afraid to step. I think Kamala will show us to not be afraid of stepping into those boardrooms or pursuing it, even though I believe First Lady Michelle Obama showed us that as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Amazing, smart, a ton of
Yeah.
resilience and just grit. I mean, and she obviously took more criticism, direct and indirect, than anyone. I don't even think a sitting president has ever taken more.
Yeah. For sure.
criticism. You know, she might have beat Obama, and he, her husband, and he had a ton as well. And so when I look around the landscape, at least the you know where I am is, you know, I see more women, you know, ascending to these high roles in, you know, in large corporations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's Starbucks, McDonald's, there's a ton of them, you know, and largely in some way stepping into these diversity roles, but they're there, right? And they have a seat at the table. You know, oftentimes these are C-suite positions, so they have a voice that's going to be heard. Now that the challenge is different because they really are going up against culture, right?
Mm-hmm.
But and so I see that, super stoked about it. But with that, do you see the progress of Black women outpacing that of Black men?
I do. I do. But the thing with that, like I just said, I hope it's not just a moment, because we have always been powerful. We have always stood up for things that were wrong. We were always the ones that were pulling and leading the family to a degree, or helping our husbands, or whatever the situation. We always was that, but we're being highlighted now because of so many reasons. Whether it's Kamala, whether it's Stacey, whether it's because of the Me Too movement, all these different things are happening. I just hope we outlive the moment, because it is, I don't know the term, and you probably can help me with this. When someone passes away, it's like trending for at least
Right.
3 days.
Mm-hmm.
But after the 3 days, it's like we move on. And I'm
Right.
just hoping that that's not the case for this moment, or this movement, or the changing of the guards.
Well, what we're going to see is, well, I'll just say, what I think we're going to see is that the news cycles are going to slow down, right? Because of, you know, the current administration, and just that it is an ongoing, just, you know, drama factory, and unpredictable. It forces a changing, and even things that we should pay attention to or moved off the scene. And that could be, again, unfortunately, if someone passes away, but it could be any event that happens, even if it's of, you know, international significance. We can still see that it just turns over, because what's the next thing that's going to happen?
Mm-hmm.
So I believe that will slow it down, hopefully, and allow us to be able to really absorb and internalize some of what's, you know, kind of some of what's going on. But we've just been forced into this treadmill sort of thing in terms of the attention. And now, but also because of the pandemic, maybe we've doubled down on that, because you have to notice, as a content creator, you know, well, people got nothing but time now, right? So, you know, there's new content creators popping up all the time. And there's only so much stuff that can show up on someone's feed. I don't care what the platform is, whether it's Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people got time on their hands now, so it's difficult to sort of get a word in edgewise. So with that, how during this, what has the pandemic done, or has Women of More been impacted, and do you see more challenges with being able to maintain your audience with this sea of content that's out there now?
Well, I think we were blessed to already be in the digital world, for all these years. So we already knew how to pivot and, gauge our audience in a digital way, because that's something that I knew was necessary, because a lot of people were changing years ago in regards to how they consume content.
Right.
So we were able to navigate, differently, and be creative in the whole process, because I believe crisis breeds creativity. So this year has really been a good year for us. It's really been a good year, and I'm grateful for it, but it's all in that execution. If I didn't pivot and make those decisions right away, then
do you find it challenging to move away from, let's say, a method or an approach that was tried and true, and it's like, no, we need to do something different? Because I always say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. What's your thought on that?
There are some things that we haven't changed, but I'm like you, I'm curious to know that there has to be something else that I can do to expand this thing that I have mastered, because you'll find yourself in a rut. You're just doing the same thing over and over. And I'm that person that tries different things creatively.
Right.
You know?
So let me ask you this, because there's two questions I want to get to, but I have to ask this, and I should have done it earlier. Where does the energy come from? Like seriously, I have never seen you in a space, in a place where you have an aura, right? And not a lot of people do. So what's up with that? Help me out.
Tony, let me ask you, can I ask you a question with your question?
Sure.
Since I was a little girl, have I always been this way?
No. Not to my recollection.
Oh, that's right, because you're so much older than me. You probably was already.
I am so much older, and frankly, a lot of my memories from when I was in poverty, I just pushed them. I just suppressed all those memories. I didn't remember it that way. As a matter of fact, I can think back to, I'm going to say, the early, maybe late 1990s. I remember seeing you out, but you really had this just sort of very distinguished, sort of very reserved demeanor. It was like, I think that's the same person I knew as a kid, but I don't know. But then I saw you again, and you was like, boom. It's like, here's Michelle, just unrelenting. I mean, how many people have videos of them doing cartwheels on Facebook? I mean, you do stuff.
Tony, what it is I begin to love myself like never before. And that is so true. Like, I wake up like this. I really do. My alarm goes off at 5 o'clock every morning. Well, like 4:45, because I try to get to the gym at 5:15. So I'm up. I'm ready for what life had for me. And everything that I do, Tony, I absolutely enjoy. So when I'm doing anything, I give it my all. Like this, if this is my last interview or conversation like this, then I'm gonna be satisfied because I gave you all of me. I'm not gonna hold it.
So let's jump into this. So we probably have about 13 minutes left. So in our sort of pre-discussion, you brought up a question around success. And I said, save that for our conversation. Do you remember the question?
What's the fear of success?
I think it was something around that.
Okay.
Also, were you asking me whether or not people fear success?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'll offer you my position on that, and I'm open to hear yours. So I don't know that people fear success. I think people start with a poor definition of what success is. Right. And I think that every person has to define that for whatever it is that they're doing. And I think that people sometimes start off with an idea, a vision, or a mission, directly thinking about how much money they're going to make. They're not thinking about the commitment and the passion. And I think it's just because we've been given so much incorrect information. A lot of their heroes, they think, are dropping in breadcrumbs, and they're not. You're not seeing behind the scenes of what happens.
Right.
But I think the other thing in terms of there not being a great definition for success, because some people could literally be like, hey, if I can touch one person, then you need to know that. So when that moment shows up, just like you can identify that moment of affirmation, that moment of, I did that, right? But I think the other thing with most folks is, it's not the fear of success as much as it is the fear of criticism. The fear of putting my idea out there, because as you well know, once it's out there, people are going to grade it. People are going to judge it. People are going to put it through a sifter. Though these people may have never done anything on their own ever, we have become expert critics. So I think that is really what the fear is when it comes to success. And then there's that other word, the F word, failure.
Mm-hmm.
And it's how do people define that, right? So even for you, like, do you process using the word failure, or do you have a different term, or how do you label it when something doesn't go the way you wanted it to go?
I just didn't get it right that time.
So it's a learning experience.
Yeah. And maybe
Right.
I shouldn't have, maybe I should have sent an email this time, or, maybe that person had a bad day. If I get a no, I'm not going to just take that no, like, oh, okay, I'll come back around. Maybe I missed something, but it's
Mhm.
definitely a learning situation for me.
But so again, in terms of people fearing success, and to be fair, like, I do know some people that have had sort of self-destructive behaviors. It's like they get right up to the cusp of being a success, and they do something to drop a grenade on their own foot.
Yeah.
They get it right into the door, and then they shoot themselves in the foot. Like, it's just these self-sabotaging things. But I think what happens then is, there is this term, along with self-sabotage, is imposter syndrome.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I do believe that there are people who do not feel that they are worthy of the success that they desire.
So,
And I think that they
so
then mess it
with,
up. Go ahead.
with that, I believe that success is good,
Mm-hmm.
however we define it, or however
Right.
we expect from it. So my question is, why would we fear something that is good for us or what we desire? And it came to me, Tony, is that we don't fear it. We have been programmed, like you said, from the things in our past. And
Mm-hmm.
what happens from our past of not feeling worthy, or feeling like you want to be criticized, or someone told you you're not smart enough. So in those moments of that present moment, what's
Right.
happening is those things are coming up to you now. So now you fearing something that's before you, but you're
Right.
really stirring up stuff from your past and making
Yeah.
it your reality. And that's why I said you really don't have fear of success. You're still allowing fearful things to make you fearful of this
Right.
moment. What do you say
Right.
about that?
I think it can certainly be that. I mean, I've seen people have a moment and then shrink in that moment.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. Because they're, as I call it, they have haunted dreams. So they have dreams, but there's ghosts and goblins that are showing up in those dreams. And so the dream becomes a nightmare, even if it's on the path of success.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really unfortunate. But like you said, if you're going to go through this, at every step along the way, there's something for you to learn about you. Because it really comes down to, it is about you.
Yeah.
And then I guess this is becoming one of my things. But I really believe that while people are building their toolkit to go on this journey, the one thing you want to make sure that you have in that toolkit is a mirror.
Yeah.
Make sure that you can see you, right? Like you said, if something doesn't go the way you want, you go back and look and say, oh, I could have done this. Maybe I should have done that. Well, that's not what a lot of people do, Michelle. When things don't go their way, it was always them. That was the reason it didn't go. And so now everyone has become an enemy of the dream, which again goes back to this whole trust thing. That's why you don't let people in. But if you can embrace it as learning, how can I do it better? How can I do it differently? How can I do it bigger? It's a whole different process, and it doesn't have to be condemnation. And I think people look at a setback as a pronouncement of something that's wrong with you.
Yeah.
Well, we got a lot of doctrine that supports that. I'm not getting into it, but we have a lot of this self-deprecation that we do that is learned behavior, and people don't understand that, yeah, if you're part of this system that has this intent really in control, the freedom you need to really excel is not afforded you. You gave those keys to somebody else. You gave that license in your life to somebody else. And so this idea of truly being able to embrace the vision and embrace your dream doesn't mean, that you're self-absorbed or that you've walked away from God. As a matter of fact, my belief is
Mm-hmm.
that we emulate God best in creation.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Not
sir.
not in worship. That's all. Don't get me down. I end up on
Listen,
court TV
I
again.
agree. I agree.
So there's that. So talk to me before we run out of time. How do you look at the generations of women, right? And so let's say, women that are, say 50 and above, and then 20 to 50 and above, so then maybe 30 to 50,
Mm-hmm.
18 to 30. Like how are these different generations of women? What's different for them? And do you change your message are you trying to reach all of them, or is there a sweet spot for you?
Mm-hmm.
Because I see these women being very different in their approach, in the way that they think, in the way that they move. What do you see?
All of what you just said, but I believe that all those generations are on the same playing field right now. Probably always been there. Because sometimes we're looking at the generations behind us to say that they are going to be the ones that do X, Y, and Z, and they are.
Mm-hmm.
But as long as we're here, we still have a responsibility to do our part. And I
Right.
think sometimes we think that the older we get, let them do it, let them do it. Yeah, they should do certain things, but we still need the older generation to do their part, whether it's
Right.
teaching, whether it's mentorship, whether it's them fulfilling whatever they're doing,
Right.
or what they were assigned to do. The age has no bearings on what you were supposed to do. So I believe that we're, of course, deal with things differently. We are trying to navigate life differently, but when it comes to the core of us, we all have the same responsibility.
So let me point out something to you then, and you can tell me if how this rests on you. So I do believe, as you pointed out, like there's wisdom that informs each of those generations differently, right? And the younger generation, they just don't have it yet, right? Because oftentimes wisdom is a byproduct of experience, and if they're not plugged into someone who has that, so they will. But also this definition of self, I think, is somehow distorted.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you look at Facebook and IG and these other platforms, it's like, and men do it too, but I just this ongoing photo shoot, right? And there has to be more to you than your face and lashes out to here and us looking at your booty. Like there has to be, and so I think I'm concerned sometimes, and maybe just showing my age, at the way that women present themselves. And like, well, what reaction do you think that that's going to get you from men in particular?
Mm-hmm.
But there's something in that, right? This hunger for, again, validation, or say I'm pretty, say I'm like, there's something there
Mm-hmm.
that, and this is the reason why I see that gap in the generations as profoundly as I do,
Mm-hmm.
because there's this, and like even this embracing of these younger generations so comfortably calling themselves the B word. Like, and if you call a woman a bitch back, like that's a fight. Like this,
I mean, you
and these
couldn't
other
even
women, they
say it.
embrace it. I am so confused
Right.
at what's going on. With
Mm-hmm.
women, it's like, I'm not gonna call you that. I don't
Right.
know why you call it. Like I said, my generation, that was a fist fight. That was the end of a relationship. That was call the attorneys. Like that was a big deal. And now it's embraced like, women call themselves that. I'm trying to figure out what's happening there.
I think, well, I don't think it's just a different leader that is driving that generation. The leader, whoever the leader is or leaders are, they have created such a different narrative that is okay to express yourself. I mean, everything has changed. In our generation, you couldn't even the smallest curse word you couldn't say on HBO or anything. We thought when HBO was just when you kiss
Oh my
somebody
God.
on HBO, it was like, whoa,
Oh.
y'all kissing.
And Cinemax. Oh my God.
But right now, it is like on Channel 6, NBC, CBS. It's just out there. I think it just changed. But I believe, like you said, the reason why some, not all women, are showing their bodies or saying certain things is because they missed something when they were younger. It always happens like that. It's always that little girl that missed out on something or she wasn't taught a particular thing. And that's
Right.
why I challenge women all the time that have little girls, especially. Don't just teach them how to keep a home, how to do laundry. Show them their value. Determine if they have some leadership traits in them, or teach them how it is to be a leader, a woman
Right.
of courage and being
Right.
brave. So then when she get to our age, she's not looking for that from you or from other people. And that's where it's from.
Right. Well, it's so I think too. I hate to bring around time here, but I think also what's really important here is and I think you understand this, right? That so for me, my legacy really is in my kids, right? Whatever people say about me or think about me, if you want proof of that, you got to look at my kids. And so I was just having a conversation with my youngest, a sophomore in college, who has a new business idea. And I'm really appreciative that her conversation, like we're talking about that, right? And she's, like, you gotta bring me a plan, right? You can't just bring me an idea, right? You gotta bring me a plan. And so we were talking about, seed money and profit maps and, helping her understand her cost and what's fixed assets. Like we're getting deep into it. And she said to me the other day, though, she says, Dad, it's like, I don't know if my generation is paying attention. Things are not going back to the way that they were. When we step out into this adult world, how do I find my place? And I don't know that enough of our young people are able to have those types of conversations with their parent who can help guide them, right? Like, I don't need to become expert in what she wants to do, but I know enough to send her, do some research, bring me back something. So she's printing out stuff, you know what I mean? Like, turn that into the process and not what's just the next pair of sneakers you're going to get or getting this bag or the next time there's just some things that don't have a lot of sustained value that has captured the minds of our people. So I appreciate what you're doing because, a body in motion will stay in motion until it's acted upon by some external force. So Women of More is that bump. It's an external force to help you recalibrate and go in a different direction. And so I want to encourage you. I think we need more of it. I don't have all the answers. I'm doing the little bit that I can. You're doing an amazing job at what you're doing. But I think across all generations, we have to find a way to steer and at least show them that there are some options. There's more, right? There are other ways. This everything that you think is a big mystery may not be a big mystery. Let's sit down and have a conversation about it and how you can begin to reposition yourself so you can do some more. Do some more types of things. So anyway, that's a lot. So before we go, how do people find you?
On Facebook, Michelle Washington, and on Instagram, Women of More Mag, MAG. Women of More Mag, actually everywhere, Facebook, Twitter. You can find us. But just follow, connect. Let me know you watched this live that we weren't intending to do, but I'm so grateful that it happened out this way. And just always know that even your biggest idea or what you have mastered at this point in your life, that there is so much more to you than what you're doing right now.
Right. So it's an amazing journey. What you've done is amazing. I appreciate you. I encourage you. I'm here if you need me for anything. But I thank you so much for you. Just came on with no hesitation at all. So I appreciate you. I can't even tell you how much.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
All right. See you guys. Peace out.